Hello, and welcome to AMTV. And now, for the first time, the complete series of The Hits Review. The following programme is rated U. It is suitable for all audiences. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome to an episode of The Hits Review. That's right, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I've currently ran out of now spin-off albums to review. I am aware that I am missing a few of them, as some of you keep telling me. However, I thought instead of just leave a gap in the week, I thought we'd cover the Hits series. Now, the Hits series, for anyone who doesn't know, was a series of albums pretty much like now, compiling hits of the day, and it rivaled now from the mid-80s, and it really sort of lost steam as the 1990s took over, but I'll explain more about that as we go. So, for the inaugural episode of the Hits Review, here we have the very first one, the Hits album.
There are more great hits on the Hits album, from Prince to the Cars.
So the Hits album, as you can see with the cover, they're really trying to get the crowd away from now. 32 original hits. This was advertised on TV, as it so boldly claims. On the corners, they put hits 1 like they knew there was going to be another one. So you've got Howard Jones, you've got Wham, Prince, ZZ Top, Michael Jackson. That was a big one. So now didn't have any Michael Jackson. The closest they got was with some Motown stuff, but they never had, you know, the likes of Thriller or Bad, anything like that. Alison Moyet, Chaka Khan, the SOS Band, Rod Stewart, Cyndi Lauper, The Cars, and Paul Young, but to name a few. Now, if you look at the track list, I'll just put that back there, you've got even more artists on the back, so they're really trying to get this across. I'll zoom this in. So, who have we got? We've got George Michael, Careless Whisper, the Thompson Twins, Meatloaf, Denise Williams, Miami Sound Machine, Sade, Kenny Loggins, Chicago, Shakin' Stevens, The Stranglers, Ray Parker Jr., which was also on now, funnily enough, Laura Branigan, and then that's the corner. So, yeah, lots of stuff. Now let's zoom in on the track list here. So, side 1, you're kicking off with Wham and Freedom. And just look at that side 1. Finishing off with Michael Jackson's Thriller, one of the biggest hits of 1984, which is when this came out. When this came out, this was around the time that Now 4 came out, and this actually beat Now 4 to be number 1 in the albums chart, making Now 4 the only Now album not to get that position. And then that's side 3. Annoying, I thought they'd do side 1, side 2. Here's side 2, so Chaka Khan, Billy Ocean, the Jacksons. Funny they put Body on here by the Jacksons. That song didn't really do that well anywhere. I'm surprised they didn't put Torture on there, but maybe that was the single at the time. Just Be Good to Me by the SOS Band is great. Denise Williams, Let's Hear It for the Boy, that's from Footloose, Dr. B. So as you can see, for the first 2 sides, there is a lot of great tracks on here, and just a lot of tracks that you don't see on the Now album, so worthy competition to start with. George Michael, Careless Whisper, The Cars, Chicago, Cyndi Lauper. That side not so much, but still some good songs. Side 4, Jump by Van Halen, what a great song. Another song from Footloose, the title song, no less. Rod Stewart, Shakin' Stevens, and finishing with Hole in My Shoe by Neil. So out of those 32 tracks, the vast majority of them never appeared on a Now album, and a lot of them are great tracks, so I can understand why a lot of music buyers diverted away from Now on this occasion. So, but of course, like Now, these are gatefolded albums, so if we open this up, there you go, their Hits album right there, 32 original hits. Remember, this isn't no copycat stuff here, and as you can see, there is information, just like Now. They formatted this very much like Now. I think they've seen the Now format can work. And you must ask, well, Adam, how did the Hits album come about if Now, you know, had such a dominance on the artists that they featured? How are there any artists left to use? Well, the Hits album is basically compiled from all the record companies that didn't sign on to Now. I'm just going to flick the album around so we can see the other side. So there is information about it at the bottom, which I'll show you in a minute. Let's just see, we've got there, so more information there. Very much like a Now album. If you'd just seen these little text boxes, you wouldn't be blamed for thinking this was just the inner notes of one of the Now albums. So the information, annoyingly, is cut down the middle on the spine. So what have we got? the design notes, the artwork. This superb album of hits has been possible with the association of Arista, CBS, Jive, and WEA. So 4 companies there that obviously didn't have an agreement with Virgin, who produced the Now albums, Virgin EMI. And so that's how you have the hits album and all of these songs there. I mean, some do cross over, like I said, nearly dropping this. The Ghostbusters theme song, which is there on side 1, also appears on Now 4. So some tracks do cross over, but for the most part, you were really stuck. You either bought the Now albums or you bought the Hits albums, because they both contained widely different... Oh, it's falling. It contained widely different track lists, and you basically went with the ones of the artists you liked. You know, if you really liked Michael Jackson stuff or Prince, then you were going to have to go with the Hits album, whereas if you liked... I'm trying to think of an example now, but you know, some of the stuff on Now... That was what you went with. I'm going to do a quick jump cut just to show you what one of the vinyl discs looks like. So here is the vinyl disc. I mean, there's nothing much to say, just there's the title, the Hits album, side 1, and all your relevant information on nice black vinyl. And what is there else to say about the Hits album? Well, as I said, I think this album is a particularly strong start for the series. There's a lot of great songs on there, a lot of big hits that you couldn't find anywhere else at the time. You could also pick this album up on cassette tape. I don't have the cassette tape version, but it is out there if you're so inclined. It was called the Hits Tape, funnily enough. And where can you get it now? I mean, Discogs, the vinyl website, eBay, secondhand, car boots. This is a very popular album. This is actually the second iteration of the Hits album I've had. I bought my first one for £1 at a car boot sale. It was really beaten up though, really worn. This one's much nicer condition. I got this very kindly given to me for free off my friend Paula, so thank you very much. And yeah, so you shouldn't have too much trouble finding this. A couple of pounds I'd pay. I wouldn't pay any more than £5 for something like this. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here. And welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. That's right, we are going back to the Hit series this week. And of course it only makes sense to go in numerical order, so that means we're going to be looking at the second album in the series, the Hits Album 2. So as you can see, design-wise on the cover, it takes its inspiration from the first with the squares all the way around. This came out in 1985, I believe, as advertised on TV. You've got Dead or Alive, King, Howard Jones, Mick Jagger, ZZ Top, Nick Kershaw, Foreigner, Kirsty MacColl, Strawberry Switchblade, that sounds menacing, Paul Young, Ashford and Simpson, and Prince, but to name a few. So I mean, let's look at the all-important track list, shall we? So I'll put this on here, let's see what we have. Zooming in! So on side 1, kicking off with Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round Like a Record. For any music fans, that was produced by Stock Aitken Waterman, a legendary producing team in the 80s. Howard Jones, King, Nick Kershaw, New Edition, Kirsty MacColl and Strawberry Switchblade there. Side 2 is annoyingly up here, so you got Prince, 1999, Easy Lover, This Is My Night, You'll Ma Be There, Let It All Blow, close to the edit. Side 3, I Want to Know What Love Is, Everything Must Change. Some amazing songs from 1985 on here if you haven't heard them before. And side 4, looking down here, some really, really great songs. Finishing off with Shakin' Stevens and Breaking Up My Heart. So this would have been going in direct competition with Now 5, some really great artists. There is more on the back as well, more artists that we didn't see before, just giving you a little pan of the area there. But now, of course, what's nice about these is they're all gatefold albums, which means we have to take a look on the inside. So let's see, Hits 2, the album, the Hits 2. So you've got all your information here. Obviously they've adapted it like Now did, taking pictures of the artists, taking pictures of the album covers, displaying information about them, plus chart information as well. Let's move it on to over here. Lots more great information about some truly great artists here. And of course, if you didn't have it, the Hits album and tape is still available. What does it say there? The first in the series was released in November 19th last year, where it went straight to number 1 and remained there for 6 weeks. Has achieved quadruple platinum sales to date, and it features such hits as Freedom by Wham, I Feel For You by Chaka Khan, and The Sister of Mercy by the Thompson Twins. So you can still, that shows how very popular Hits was, even at its beginning. It was number 1 for 6 weeks before compilations had their own dedicated chart, so to speak, and for a time it seemed like this was going to be a big contender for Now That's What I Call Music. But before we talk more about the history and the album, I'll show you actually what's inside. So here is the Hits album. There's side 1, and on side 2, so what's nice is you have the insignia of the album, just a bit of branding there. It's not just your standard LP, but these are in nice condition and they play absolutely beautifully. So the Hits album 2, who is it really for? Well, it's a tricky one because, I mean, if you like 80s music, like 1985 specifically, then you'll like the stuff on here. There's some really great artists. The Hits series in general, I've found, is a lot easier to collect than now because obviously it's not as well known amongst today's generation, and a lot of copies were still sold back then. I mean, I picked this up a good 4 or 5 years ago for about £3 or £4, and you could probably still find it around that price today. Second-hand shops, your independent record stores, things taken second-hand. The Hits album branding seems to have returned, but the whole design of that harkens to later editions, so we'll probably look at that in future installments. But Hits 2, for what it's worth, I mean, if you see it at a car boot sale for £1 or a record shop for dirt cheap, if you like the music and you like collecting hits, I mean, it's good to pick up. Now, if you give me a jump cut, I might have a special treat for you and own the cassette of this album. Lo and behold, my hunch was correct. Here it is. It's the Hits album tape. See how they say that? The album and then tape for obviously cassette tape. To my knowledge, it's all the same stuff on here, still finishing with Shakin' Stevens and all that. Obviously, this is a tape, so you don't have something on the back on this case. The tapes are stacked like this. I hate tapes that are stacked like this. I just think it's a bit of an odd system. But the tapes are all here, and if you remove said tapes, you actually get more information about the songs and about track lists and all that sort of stuff. So it's just neat to have. I mean, I got this tape through a bulk collection. They didn't have Hits 1, but they had a bunch of hits on tape. So if you're still into cassettes and you want to get this album as opposed to vinyl, then you can always pick it up on the Hits tape. So on the whole, that is the Hits album 2. I think I slightly prefer the Hits album 1 in terms of track list, but of course, that is just my own subjective opinion. You could like something completely different for all I know. So again, if you want to get into Hits, this is a nice cheap entry point. It's quite common, easily found. I see it all the time myself. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. Yes, that's right, we're taking a break from the Now Review for a little while to focus on its main competitor in the 1980s, which is the Hits series, and we're going in chronological order, which means for this installment, as you can see, we're taking a look at Hits 3, the album. First of all, this title, the way they've done it, it reminds me of like that sort of 60s-esque, like when they do 3D, like that'd be the 3 and the D, and like Thunderbirds type. I really like it. But they've gone for the same sort of, you know, square outline that Hits 1 and 2 used as well. So it's advertised on TV. Funnily enough, I can't find an advert for it though these days. Jennifer Rush for The Power of Love, ZZ Top, Madonna, King, Paul Young, The Cars, Bruce Springsteen, Bonnie Tyler, Aha, Shakin' Stevens, Eurythmics and Aretha Franklin, and Matt Bianco, to name a few. And of course, the all-important track list. But also other artists, you got Sister Sledge, you got Redbox, the Thompson Twins, John Parr, Steve Arrington? I think that says, I can't really read it. Brilliant. Echo and the Bunnymen, Cyndi Lauper, Huey Lewis and the News, Sade, The Cult, I think that says, and Prince and The Revolution. Some major big artists on here that Now couldn't get. So like Prince and Madonna weren't on Now albums, for those who didn't know that was going to fall. So it was a major incentive back in the day, if you were fans of them, to get this album. Let's take a look at the track list. So you've got Take On Me kicking it off, an iconic song of the 80s. You've got King, you've got Redbox, Matt Bianco, Sister Sledge, Denise Will Sell My Toot Toot, a hilarious song, you should listen to it, and Shakin' Stevens. Side 2, Madonna, Dress You Up, which was a hit single from her album at the time, Like a Virgin. Prince and the Revolution with Asbury Beret. Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen. 3 key artists there that Now couldn't get, Madonna, Prince and Bruce Springsteen. Major firepower for hits. It's a man's world. Okay, by Brilliant. Kern Labram's Trapped, an amazing song. Give that a listen. Side 3, you got Jennifer Rush, Paul Young, The Cars, Cyndi Lauper, Sade, Dream Academy, Bonnie Tyler, and then skirting back here to side 4, you got John Parr, Huey Lewis and the News, ZZ Top, Bonnie Tyler again, she's on it twice, Thompson Twins, The Cult, and Echo and the Bunnymen to finish off with. So some really great songs right here. Fun fact about John Parr, the song St. Elmo's Fire is sort of one-hit wonder status. John Parr is actually from or very near to where I grew up in South Yorkshire, so that's a fun little fact for you there. I'll talk more about the track list later, but if you're not familiar with these, the hits, like the Old Now albums, are all gatefolded, which means, of course, they open up to this, Hits 3, the album. You can also buy Hits 1 on album and tape back then, and also Hits 2, and does this have a... Oh yes, they have blurbs like the last one, so this went to number 1 for 6 weeks in November 84. And Hits 2, the second in the Hits series, was released in April, followed the chart success of the Hits album, and went straight to number 1 again for 6 weeks. So these two, and including this one, were major competition for Now, really giving them a run for their money. I'll scan through these, but of course back then, compilation albums didn't have their own unique chart as they do now. They were regulated on the albums chart, the main albums chart, and the compilations chart came about because for so long, compilations like Now, like Hits, were dominating the charts so much it was deemed unfair, and that's why the compilation chart was eventually compiled. I do love this. I love the fact that navy blue is sort of the main colour because it contrasts so well with the red and the yellow motif. I think out of the first 3 Hits albums we've looked at, this is the nicest cover in terms of its colour schemes. Hits 1 is just sort of all over the place. And Hits 2, yeah, the blue, pink and yellow works well, but I kind of prefer this style. But what I'll do now, very quickly, let's take a look at the vinyl record inside. So here it is, Hits 3, the vinyl disc in pretty good condition. It's the same on the other side, but it's nice to see the title there. So what else is there to say? I mean, looking at the track list, this actually probably has my favourite track list of the Hits series so far, more so than Hits 1 and Hits 2. I just think this one packs so many hit songs, and so many hit songs that never appeared on Now albums of the time. Of course, this came out in 1985, around the time that, let me think, like some of the late and like Now 5 and 6 were sort of competing with this. I mean, Madonna, Prince and Bruce, I mean, if they're not on Now and they're on here, that's going to be a major incentive for people to pick up this album. And in terms of picking it up, where can you yourself pick it up if you're interested? Well, I was very lucky. I got mine at a car boot sale. It's in pretty neat condition for just £1. That's right. But I have seen this around in the wild recently, and it doesn't go for much more than that. A couple of pounds here and there. Always make sure you're checking your vinyl discs. Make sure they're free of deep scratches or a lot of dirt. I mean, if it's dusty and all that, you can sort of clean that up in the right way. And scratches, if they're really faint, they're not going to do that much damage. But if they're deep, then you've just got to leave it. There's plenty of these out there, and if you look hard enough, you'll definitely come across one. And if you just want to see what Now's competitors were up to, it's definitely a worthwhile album to get. As I say, it's my favourite Hits album of the series that we've looked at so far. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. And of course we're moving chronologically through the Hits series in its early days, which means now we are going to be taking a look at the 4th instalment of the series, Hits 4.
Look at Hits 4 with the number 1 from Diana Ross.
So Hits 4 moves away from the standard cover. If you remember, the first 3 had artists lined all the way around the cover. Not this time, we go for a more sort of artsy style. It's honestly quite strange. I mean, obviously it says Hits 4 at the top, but I find the artwork a little abstract and odd. But at least you get the artist load down here. So you've got Aha, Feargal Sharkey, Wham, Bangles, Madonna, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston, Five Star, Paul Hardcastle, Fine Young Cannibals, Eurythmics, Double, Mike and the Mechanics, Howard Jones, DC Lee, Kate Bush, and the Electronic Light Orchestra, to name a few. And the spine, of course, says it's various artists because, hey, that's what it is. And this is Hits 4. And the all-important track list, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to zoom in and we're going to take a look at what wonderful songs are on this here album. So on side 1, you're kicking off with The Sun Always Shines on TV, which is one of my favourite 80s songs and actually made number 1 in this country. And you've got I'm Your Man by Wham, Manic Monday by the Bangles is a great song. Oddly enough, Madonna Borderline is on here. Now Hits 4, this album came out in 1986. Borderline was from Madonna's debut album in 1983. So this has already been available for quite a while. You know, we'd already by this point had Like a Virgin, Material Girl, Dress You Up. So why this was included on here is quite interesting, I think. But anyway. So on side 2, there's Diana Ross from Chain Reaction. Whitney Houston, How Will I Know, one of her first hits. Alexander O'Neal, 5 Star. Paul Hardcastle, I do prefer 19, I think. Whistle and Full Force. And if we just move down now to side 3, Got The Damned, The Fine Young Cannibals, Pill, Bronski Beat, Baby's Coming Back, or It's Alright by Eurythmics, great song. West End Girls, oh, the Pet Shop Boys appeared on here. Funny that. Of course, by this point, 1986, towards the start of the year, this hit number 1 in the singles chart. So nice to see them on here. And, side 4, you got Double, Latin Quarter, Mike and the Mechanics, Howard Jones, DC Lee, Kate Bush, and finishing with Calling America by the Electric Light Orchestra. So a very eclectic track mix there for sure. But now we're going to have a look on the inside, because all of these, like the old Now albums, are gatefolded, which means you can open them up and have a look inside. So there, of course, is the art. It's finally text I can actually read. So of course it explains how Christmas Eve entered the charts. So it tells you how long it was in the charts for, when it entered the charts, where it peaked, and of course where you can find it, what album it's from. See, look, Madonna entered the charts in 1984, reached number 2, stayed there for 10 weeks, okay. But even then, that still takes you to 1984. Just a very strange inclusion, I think, considering Hits Like Now was meant to be the most up-to-date chart hit, so I don't know. It just seems something from 1983, a few years prior, was a bit strange to me. Anyhow, and we're going to look at the other side now. We'll have a look at the middle, don't you worry. Scanning down there. There they are, the Pet Shop Boys entered the charts in November 85, reached number 1 and stayed in the charts for 15 weeks. What a great song, West End Girls. As I actually first came to the attention of that song by playing Grand Theft Auto, the 5th one, because it's on the radio station. Anyway, Hits 4, you can also get the Hits 1 album and tape, the Hits 2 album and tape, and the Hits 3 album and tape, which all bear the old sort of cover style. And it says the first 3 collections of the famous hit series are still available on LP and cassette, and a video cassette of a selection of tracks included on this compilation is also available from the right people, and you've got all your credits there. So Hits 4, you know, by this point, 4 volumes, they've managed to craft out a place for themselves against Now. You know, they were competing with them, they were doing rather well, and the songs reflect that. You've got a lot of songs that didn't appear on Nows at the time. Sure, artists crossed over to Now eventually, but you know, big songs like, I believe, How Will I Know, Whitney Houston, that didn't appear on Now at the time. Madonna never appeared on Now at the time. She has done subsequently, but definitely not in this point in the 1980s. However, now, what I'm going to do, as we've done with the past, I'm going to take one of the records out and just show you what they look like. So here is a Hits 4 record. This is the first disc, so as you can see it says side 1, and on the flip it'll say side 2. And continuing the trend of the last couple, it's taken the album artwork and imprinting it on the disc, giving it a little bit of personality. Now, in terms of who this is for and whether you should buy this or not, we're going to get to that in a second, but there's one more thing we have to take a look at first. So the other thing we were going to look at, of course, was the album on cassette. That's right, and this cost £7.49 back in the day. Isn't that quite expensive back in 1986 money? I dread to think what that is in inflation. But yes, this is the album on cassette, and I believe all the tracks are here. That's kind of hard to see, but just from having a quick skim of it, I think everything's here, all the tracks. But of course, it's in this fat box style, and they've, if I can open it, they've done it in this stack the tapes way. I don't really like it. I do like they've engraved the logo on there, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't like how they stack tapes like this. I don't know, it's a bit of a bugbear for me. But that is a little novelty on cassette. I got it in a massive job lot along with the Hits 2 cassette. Didn't have Hits 3 or Hits 1, shamedly. So anyway, who is this album for? Well, the vinyl edition I picked up a few years ago, along with Hits 3 actually, for only £1 at a second-hand car boot sale. And that is the best way I advise you to find these sort of albums. You'll probably now find them in independent record shops and all that sort of stuff. But, you know, a lot of them did sell back then, and they are often in the hands of just your everyday people because, you know, it's a summation of the charts. Same with the Now albums. With the cassette version, with cassettes being a bit trickier to find out in the wild these days, if you really want this on cassette, you're either going to be looking at things like eBay or Discogs if you want it on cassette specifically, and make sure it's in working order. That's why, like me, I have a Walkman. If you have a Walkman and you're out in the wild, take it with you so you can test cassettes there and then. But whether it's vinyl or cassette, the Hits 4 is actually a pretty decent album. I think I still prefer Hits 3 in terms of like track list and stuff, but there's some great songs on here. I mean, any Pet Shop Boys is a win for me, and some Madonna as well. So it's really up to you in terms of the track list, but make sure you're picking it up for cheap. Do not pay more than, I'd say, £5 for either version of this. Certainly not £7.49 like some poor sucker did in 1986. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here. And welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. As we're going chronologically through the series, it's now time to look at Hits number 5, well represented by a brand new cover, not abstract art or squared artists. No, we've just gone for a dice, all faces saying 5, because guess what? It's Hits 5. But this actually is probably one of the most iconic artworks for Hits. This is the one a lot of people remember when I ask them about Hits and stuff, and this is a copy you see often in the wild as well. So who have we got today? We've got a-ha, Paul Young, Nick Kamen, Eurythmics, The Pretenders, Paul Simon, The Stranglers, 5-Star, Cyndi Lauper, Prince and the Revolution, Redbox, Spandau Ballet, Shakin' Stevens, Lionel Richie, Whitney Houston, Rod Stewart, and Boris Gardner. So a very eclectic bunch there. As you can see, there is the spine. Now, first thing to note, my copy of Hits 5 is a bit more beat up than the others. I got this for about £1 at a car boot sale, and it definitely shows. But anyway, I'm going to put this down here, and we're going to flick through our selection of tracks today. This is from around 1986. So what tunes have we got from that year there? So I've Been Losing You, a-ha, The Bangles, What Like an Egyptian. Some great stuff to kick up with, that's for sure. The Way It Is, Bruce Hornsby and the Range is a great one. And for some reason they've put side 2 this side, So You Can Call Me Al. Well, I like that one actually. Thorn in My Side, Eurythmics. Rain or Shine by 5-Star, one of their most well-known ones. And then side 3, Cyndi Lauper, Rod Stewart. Some great songs on here. Again, this isn't, and for some reason it goes black down here. You could have got away with white just about. And side 4, Redbox, Psychedelic Furs, Prince and Revolution. Yeah, all that stuff there. I mean, they're all good songs, that's for sure. Probably not one of my most favourite selections. Though you do have the artists on the back. I don't know why they put them on the front. Oh yeah, I know why, because the big dice took over everything, that's why. But you've got your big artists of the day, that is for sure and without a doubt. So now we're going to open it up, because of course if this is your first time watching these Hits videos, these are gatefold albums, which means they open up like so. That's right. So let's see, I'll pan down here. So Hits 5, yeah, I mean, again, not stand out to me, but I do see this one a lot out and about in the wild on a variety of formats really, and it's got little tidbits about the other albums there. I don't think it's anything specific, it's just the first 4. You can really see how they changed the format of this. Don't know why they didn't stick to one. What does it say? Just as the first 4 for the famous hit series are still available on LP and cassette. No little tidbits about them this time, how long they stayed till number 1. I don't actually know if the hit series was staying at number 1 at this point. There was a point where they fell off, but I'm not actually sure when that is. And just for clarity's sake, of course, let's have a quick look at what one of these vinyl records looks like. So here it is, Hits 5, the vinyl record, continuing the theme of having the logo on the disc itself. This one's a bit more scuffed, but I assure you when I do play it on the deck, it does play really well, this side too. So yeah, nice theming of the disc. So what else is there to say about Hits 5? As I say, it's not like my instant favourite. I think one thing why the Hits maybe didn't do as well as Now did as it went on, there's a lot of inconsistencies. I mean, yes, it's good to change up the cover like this, and this typography is sort of similar to Hits 4, but they really kept changing things quite radically, and I think the more you do that, the more you're going to alienate your audiences. I mean, you saw inside how the first 3 looked so similar, and they all did really well. Not sure how well this one did. Maybe it reached number 1 in the charts, who knows, but that's just my thoughts. But again, it's a very striking cover, one you remember. And before I talk about who should buy this, and if you should buy this, of course, like some of the others, I actually own this album on cassette as well, but this one isn't a fat box. This is actually 2 smaller individual cassettes. I'm not sure whether they originally, packaged together with a holder like that. As you can see, it says tape 2 and tape 1. But the thing is, I would say that, but if they were combined like this or like this, then unless you got them out of the holder, you wouldn't actually notice that the covers are different. Of course, this is tape 1. And that actually has that side's artist, and tape 2 has that side artist, which makes sense. I mean, of course, you could pull out the inlays, so I actually don't know, again, whether these came separate or together, although I have seen tape 1 on its own in the wild, so it leads me to believe it came together. So have a quick look at what one of these tapes looks like. They kept the logo. Oh, see, that looks cool, just the dice. Not even the logo, the words above it, just the dice. That's actually pretty cool. See inlay card for details, because we can't be asked to put it on the cassette, though I don't blame them. As you can see, there's the inlay card, which does tell you, of course, what is on what side of your tapes. And I do believe every song that is on the vinyl is on these as well. You're not missing out. So if you are so inclined, I mean, I got mine in a bulk deal, but if you are so inclined with cassettes and you want to own it, Hits 5 is also available on cassette for you to purchase in these single box forms. But should you buy the album in general, whether it's cassette or vinyl? I mean, it's 1986. If you like that sort of stuff, you want like a sampling of it as well as the Now albums or something different from the Now albums, then definitely go for Hits 5. However, if you have a lot of 80s compilations, if you're not bothered about getting any more, then unless there's something really specific on here that isn't on the Now albums or anything like that, you could probably give this one a miss. As I stand at the minute, my favourite one of the ones we've looked at so far is about Hits 3. That had a really strong track list, design, everything. Not to say this one is bad, but this one in some aspects for me, particularly in the track list, leaves a lot to be desired. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Hits Review, where we take a chronological look at the Hits series, the main rival to Now That's What I Call Music. And of course, as we're going chronological, that means the next instalment is the Hits album, Volume 6. So here it is, here's the cover, which is strange, just two coloured bars, that's about it. Don't know what that's really supposed to say, if that's meant to say 6 in some way, but it's just a very weird cover. It's just two coloured lines and then this moniker. Definitely the most bizarre design we've looked at so far anyway. So on this one we've got 32 chart hit singles, including Whitney Houston, Madonna, Starship, George Michael, Terence Trent D'Arby, Alison Moyet, Johnny Logan, Fleetwood Mac, Mel and Kim, Curiosity Killed the Cat, Level 42, Pepsi and Shirley, Chris Rea, John Farnham, and 5 Star. So a very eclectic bunch there. Various artists, of course, as it says on the spine. And I'll plot this down so there's not as much space. But let's have a look who is on this volume. So zooming in. So we've got I Wanna Dance With Somebody, one of the most popular 80s songs to this day. I Knew You Were Waiting, George Michael, Aretha Franklin, that's good. Terence Trent D'Arby, Club Nouveau, 5 Star, Darn George Michael, respectable, one of the best Stock Aitken Waterman songs in my opinion. Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, brilliant song by Starship there. Got some Alison Moyet. Whitesnake, Is This Love, brilliant. Big Love by Fleetwood Mac, Coming Around Again by Carly Simon. You're the Voice by John Farnham, again, brilliant song. Side 3, you got some Madonna, who at the time was not featured on Now album. She is now, but definitely not back then. Under the Boardwalk by Bruce Willis, that's hilarious. Living in a Box with Living in a Box. And side 4, Love You to See Free, Something Inside So Strong, brilliant. Hold Me Now by Johnny Logan, which won the 1987 Eurovision Song Contest, for anyone who's interested there. And finishing with Star Trekking by The Firm, fantastic stuff. So that is the soundtrack, that is the track list of Hit 6, and I think that's a really good selection in my honest opinion. But of course, as it's a gatefolded album, that means we will open it up and see what's inside. And like Now, if you weren't familiar, here's Whitney for example, all the little bits of information about the song, where it charted, and what album it's from. And a lot of these are just fantastic songs in general. This actually, just looking at it in general, this probably has one of the best track lists of the Hits series. My favourite was Hits 3, but I'm thinking Hits 6 might be my new favourite as we go along this journey. And let's take a look at the others down there. Some great 80s tracks on here for a very wide variety of mainstream chart artists at the time. The finishing song, Star Trekking, great little parody if you like. Where did that get to? No DJ is... Nice little Star Trek thing there. Yeah, that's cool. So you got the other 5 mentioned in the middle. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 followed a very similar design. Hits 4 and 5 do not. At least it's a bit consistent. The first 5 collections in the famous Hits series are still available on LP and cassette. I'm not sure when these started on CD. I'm sure they did get a CD release. This one is 1980. I want to say this is 87 now, with some of those tracks what I recognise. So yeah, 1987, the Hits album 6. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to open it up and we're going to take a look at one of the discs. So there you are, here is the Hits album 6 on disc. They don't really include the cover like the others did, like with the dice or whatever, because, you know, it's 2 coloured bars. But you get the logo there and on the other side. So a bit disappointing there's not a lot of colour here, but that is your disc. So the track list on here is absolutely fantastic, and I think I will confirm it is now my new favourite track list of the Hits album series, above Hits 3, so the new winner is Hits 6, great selections there. But, like some of the others, I also have the privilege of owning Hits 6 on cassette. That's right, and if you watch the Hits 5 video, it comes like this, so 2 individual cases. There's some scuffs here, which makes me think they were plastered together at one point. There you can see it's tape 1 and tape 2. You got your 32 chart hit singles, and like Hits 5, the artists on there are different to reflect who is on which cassette, which is very helpful if you ask me. And what's that on the back? Oh, they've actually got them there. Not all of them had them there, but they do. So what I'm going to do is let's open it up. Let's have a look at the cassette itself. There you go. No iconography up there. If you remember, Hits 5 had the dice, which I like. But again, it's hard to do iconography when your front cover is just two coloured bars that don't really represent anything. Even that one's the same. So yeah, Hits 6 on cassette. I mean, I got this in a big bundle, but I really wouldn't pay any more than £2 for this if you want it on cassette. And make sure it's not just the one tape, it is two. Make sure you're looking on the spines and make sure the tapes are indeed all there. So if you are so inclined, you can find them on tape, eBay or charity shops if you're lucky, any that still carry cassettes. The vinyl edition itself, I picked this up a few years ago for about £3, I think it was, and that is really like a lot of the early Hits albums, all you really want to be paying for this sort of stuff. You don't want to be paying £5 or more for this. Make sure it's in good nick. If you're not bothered about the state of the covers, that's fine, but make sure you're always checking the discs for no major scratches or anything, because that does happen. I once saw a really beat up copy of this in a shop. They were selling it for £1, but it looked virtually unplayable, so make sure you're always checking your discs. But the Hits Album 6 is a massive triumph. So many great songs that wouldn't have appeared on a Now album at the time. Of course they do now, things have changed, but to have those big songs from like Whitney Houston, Madonna, all that sort of stuff, and it's just a great album in general. So many of those songs I can pick out and say I'd love to listen to that. So it's a good one from me. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. For any newcomers, this is our look at the Hits series, going through Hits 1, all the way through to, well, who knows at this point, there's quite a few of them, but Hits is the main rival to Now That's What I Call Music, at least in the 1980s and the early 1990s. And this is our 7th instalment, which means we're going to be taking a look at the Hits album, Volume 7. So as you can see from the cover, this makes no attempt to hide what volume it is. It's a massive 7 right on the front. You know, gone are the weird lines, gone's the weird art style, gone is even the subtlety of the dice on Hits 5. It's just the number 7. You get what you're given. Let's see who we've got on Hits Album 7. We have 32 chart hit singles, including Luther Vandross, The Bee Gees, Terence Trent D'Arby, Fleetwood Mac, Whitney Houston, Simply Red, Aha, Five Star, Rick Astley, Prince, Ray Parker Jr. and the Beastie Boys. Quite an eclectic mix. I paid £3 for this. Believe it or not, this was about 4 or 5 years ago now. One of the first Hits albums I actually owned. There you go, Hits Album 7, various artists. And let's see the full comprehensive list. The 7 is on the back, just in case you forgot what number album this was. Very considerate of them, of course. So, let's have a look. Side 1, You Win Again. Brilliant song by the Bee Gees, one of their best. For some reason it says Fade, as if that denotes there's a difference to it. Anyway, Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley, who doesn't know that by now. There you got Terence Trent D'Arby, Five Star, Spagna, can't remember that one. Beastie Boys, she's on it, great song. Full Metal Jacket, and Shakin' Stevens, he was still, oh that's an old song, isn't it? What do you want to make those eyes at me for? He was all about that 50s style though, wasn't he? Little Lies, Fleetwood Mac, Alexander O'Neill criticised, You Got the Look by Prince, Dinner with Gershwin, Donna Summer, Casanova by The Verve, not familiar with that one. Funky Town, Pseudo Echo, you got Chic. Okay, Jacques Lafrigue, I've got a feeling that was sort of a remix for the time. And then we're going to move on up to side 3. We've got The Living Daylights by Aha, which of course was their Bond theme for the film of the same name. You've got Wax, you've got Scarlet Fantastic, She's in the Mary Chain, Sisters of Mercy, Housemaster Boys, and The Rude Boy of House. Of course, Voyage Voyage by Desiredless, and that's all in French, and that did surprisingly well here. You know, when we get the odd foreign song that does well, and My Baby Just Cares For Me, which was actually released towards the end of the 50s, I think, but I think it was used in a commercial at the time. So side 4, Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing. Didn't we also have it all? Whitney Houston, cracking song. Songbird by Kenny G, and finishing with Every Time We Say Goodbye by Simply Red. It's also available on double cassette and double CD as other formats. So yeah, quite the interesting track list there, and because this is gatefolded, like all Hits albums, and Now albums subsequently, it opens up. So let's have a gander here. So this is just giving you little bits of information. So take the Bee Gees, mark their 20th year of recording in October with their 5th UK number 1 and smash hits. So yeah, this did reach number 1. And it tells you the album it's from as well, if you're interested in picking said albums up. I own quite a few of these actually. Yeah, definitely a very varied mix as always. So this came out in 1987, just as Hit 6 did, I believe. and we'll get to that middle bit in a sec. Just a bit of information about all the others. Some cracking stuff on here. So in the middle, the other 6 are still available, and as you can see, the hits 1, 2, and 3 have that similar design. Hits 4 went a bit wacky. Hits 5 went for a dice, and Hits 6 was the first, it seems, to be released on CD. Notice how all the others are just record and tape. Hit 6 seems to be the first that was available on CD. The first 6 collections in the famous Hit series are still available on LP and cassette. Oh no, Hits 5's on CD as well. So what about Hits 4? Okay, Hits 5, sorry, is the first that was released on CD, as was this one. I wonder how hard they are to find. But anyway, now I'm going to actually take out one of the records and show you what it looks like. Here is the record, and of course it has a massive 7 on it, which is quite nicely denoted. Maybe the budget was running low because it's not in colour, it's in white. No, I'm going to say black and white, mainly just white, and the other side is the same. So I wonder why that was the case, but yeah, that's your disc for Hit 7. So, a pretty mixed album there, but before we get into whether it's worth picking up and how you pick it up, we've got one more thing, and if you're familiar with this show, you know how it works. It's the Hit 7 on cassette, and it's like this once again in 2 separate volumes. There is tape 1, there is tape 2. And like those other tapes, it actually tells you which artists are on which tape, which is very useful. And of course, it's got the massive 7 just in case you forgot. But now then, let's see if there's any design on the tape itself. Yes, there is. Look at that. A massive 7, just as you'd expect. So side 1. Oh, that's nice. I like that when they had the dice on Hits 5. Hit 6 didn't really have anything. I mean, the cover was coloured lines. But anyway, that's your cassette tape. So yeah, you can pick this up on cassette as well. I got mine in a job lot, but I mean, cassette tapes now are going for, well, I wouldn't pay more than £1 for Hit 7 on cassette, if I'm honest with you. And same with the album. As I said, I paid £3 a few years ago. Some people might try and, get you a bit more for that. My recommendation is I wouldn't pay any more than £5 maximum for the vinyl edition. And as always, make sure you're checking your vinyl, make sure there's no deep scratches, make sure it's in decent nick. Because the worst thing you can do is buy the album, not check it, come home, and then it be borderline warped or unplayable. And should you get this, I mean, I think I still prefer Hit 6 as my favourite track list. There are some winners on here like Rick Astley and Whitney Houston, quite a lot, but for me, there's a fair amount of stuff that I'm not too much of a fan of, but I mean, if you like what you saw on the track list, then there's nothing to say that you're not going to enjoy the Hits album 7. Just again, watch the price, watch the condition of your records, or tapes, or CD, but I'm not sure how rare the CDs are. Early, things like that, like the early now CDs are quite rare and expensive. I'm not sure what it's like with Hits, but always check your condition if you want to buy. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here. And welcome back to another instalment of the Hits Review. This is the series where we take a chronological look at the main rival to now that's what I call music, at least the main rival in the 1980s and early 90s. And as such, we've reached our 8th episode, which means our next album is this one, which is the Hits album, Volume 8.
Here's the very latest, Hits 8, with the #1 hit from S Express and the #1 from Aswad.
So, in terms of cover design, if you remember, Hit 7 went for a very obvious choice with the number 7. This is back to the bizarreness of of Hits 4, Hit 6, just weird, colours, shapes. I guess it's meant to represent an 8, but I'm all not too sure. Anyway, hot hits of summer 88. So we've got Whitney Houston, the Pasadenas, Sade, Eighth Wonder, Fairground Attraction, Erasure, Tiffany, Terence Trent D'Arby, Aswad, Fleetwood Mac, Bros, and Aztec Camera, but to name a few. So a pretty stellar lineup when you look at it like that. So this is various artists, of course, and I'll plonk this here. 33 tracks, bit of an odd number to round off on, 33. A lot of the albums of the day were doing 30, 32. This one's got 33. So, side 1, kicking off with Aha, Stay On These Roads. I'm Not Scared by Eighth Wonder, great song, written, I believe, by the Pet Shop Boys, and they did their own version. MJ and the Jackson 5, which is just a remix of I Want You Back, still pretty good. Bros, I Owe You Nothing, which was their #1 hit, of course. I Saw Him Standing There, Beatles cover by Tiffany. Tell It To My Heart by Taylor Dayne, great song. She was the first sort of artist that was the feature of my radio show, our little theme we've got going on. Voyage, Voyage, great song. Was this on Hit 7? I'm pretty sure this was on Hit 7. I just vaguely remember talking about it. Anyway, this was a French hit, did very well over here. Tribute, Ride On, this is the Pasadena's tribute to Motown, which is really good. Some more great hits here. Car Wash by Rose Royce, goodness. I Will Save the Day. Luther Vandross to finish off side 2. Alright, let's kick it on over to side 3. So Aztec Camera kicked that one off. You've got Fair Go and Traction with Perfect, great song. Everywhere by Fleetwood Mac. I Found Someone by Cher. Sign Your Name by Terence. And The Lovers by Alexander O'Neal. And side 4, you've placed A Chill in My Heart by Eurythmics. Fabulous song. The theme from S-Express, this was everywhere. I think this was a #1 hit, but it was honestly at the time everywhere. Chains of Love by Erasure. And finishing off with the Jesus and Mary chain with Side Walking. Nice little selection there, 33 tracks. So, like all these albums of the day, both hits, and now this is a gatefold sleeve, which means we're going to open it on up. So, for anyone who's not familiar, it's slightly different this time of the layout, but they give you little information about the artist, about the album it came from, about the songs. So for a-ha, one of pop's most successful international groups back in the driving seat with a sellout nationwide tour, a new album, and this top 5 single taken from the album cassette CD, Stay on These Roads. So that's the basic premise for all of these here. As you just sort of scan on down, it gives you all information about the albums, about the artists themselves, just all the crucial information you'd actually want to know. So if you were, say, tempted to buy these albums that they come from, you'd be able to do so. Now, the first 7 hits would advertise the previous 6 albums. This one only advertises hits 6 and 7, which were from 1987. This obviously came out in 88. This logo is really strange. I'm not sure why they do that, but the hit 6 album, tape and CD. Also the hit 7 album, tape and CD. The last 2 collections of the Famous Hits series are still available on LP, cassette and CD. So maybe by 1988 had they discontinued the first 5 volumes? Like, obviously you could still get them secondhand, but they stopped making new copies? I wonder what the answer is. Of course, now they're starting to appear on CD, as CDs were starting to come in at the time, but I'd say vinyl at this point and cassette were still the most dominant formats. And now, very quickly, I'm going to take out one of the discs and show you what it looks like. Okie doke, so here is the Hits album, volume 8 on vinyl, and as you can see the logo's here, but the colours are all in a red theme. Could they not afford the colour printing of all the separate colours? I'm not too sure, but that's side 1, and as you'd expect, side 2 is exactly the same. Pretty standard by this point. So what is there to say about Hits volume 8? Well, the tracklist is pretty superb. It rivals Hits 6 as my favourite tracklist. I think Hits 6 slightly tops it for me, but it is a stellar tracklist nonetheless. I'll talk more about whether you should pick this up in a minute, because of course, like some of the others, if you didn't want it on vinyl or if you want some variety, you can get it on cassette. So here is the Hits tape. Hits album in the vinyl, and this is the tape. It's still the same logo, which I'm convinced is meant to be an 8, but it's just in a weird abstract format. Obviously you've got the same list of artists there, and there's your Spine the Hits tape volume 8, and all the tracks are on the back. They're back to this fat box style format, if you remember the last few. So Hits 5, Hits 6, Hits 7, they were all in individual tape size cases across 2 of them. This is back to the fat box style, so if we open it up, if I can, yeah, so it's stacked. The 2 tapes are stacked like this. I've never liked tapes being stacked like this, but you know, that was back what it was back in the day. And the Hits tape 8 is there, and the logo is featured. And I do honestly like the logos on the tapes themselves. I think they are quite cool when you get down to it. But yeah, I mean, that's a standard tape for you. But yeah, I really don't like them stacked like that. I don't know what it is. It just annoys me a bit. So yeah, I got that in a job lot of tapes, but obviously if you're interested, tapes are going for pretty cheap nowadays. I know they're coming back slightly, but for the tape I wouldn't pay any more than £2, and for the vinyl album I wouldn't pay any more than £5 for it. I paid about £3 or £4 for it earlier this year, and whether you should pick it up, I mean, it's like with all these compilation albums, if you like these songs specifically from the summer of 1988, you know, you really like the style, you like the artist, you like most of the music, then yeah, it's worth picking up the Hits album 8 if you're a vinyl collector, or if you want it on tape, or if you really want it on CD, you can go and do it. However, if you have some of the other Hits albums or other like Now albums from 1988 that you prefer the track list on, then don't bother getting this just for the sake of it, unless you're like a die-hard collector. But it's still a neat album nonetheless. Probably now second favourite track list for me, just behind Hits number 6. Superb stuff. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review. This is the series where we take a comprehensive chronological look at the main rival to now. That's what I call music, at least in the 80s and early 90s. And this is our 9th episode of the Hits Review, which means we're looking at the 9th instalment, which as you can see is not titled The Hits Album 9. So I'm going to call it Hits 9, but here it is, it's The Hits Album Volume 9. So here's the cover, and I mean, a yellow suitcase, like we're going on holiday with the Hits album. We've got 30 chart hits, so we've lost 3 songs from the last one. We've got Yaz, Bros, Aha, The Pasadenas, Enya, Chris de Burgh, Rick Astley, Whitney Houston, Angry Anderson, and many more. ... Very mysterious. So, of course, the main takeaway from this cover, apart from being garishly yellow, is that there is no number. They dropped the number, which I think was the first step in the Hits downfall as a series, because, of course, with Now, they were very consistent. You know, we've had Now 1 in 1983, and still, in 2019, we are numbering Nows. We're now on 103, of course. So to drop the numbers, I think, was a massive mistake. You can argue this is sort of a soft relaunch or reboot, but did it really pay off? I'm not too sure it did. Anyhow, let's have a look at the spine, which, again, just says the Hits album. However, the code of this album, because every vinyl has a code, if you like, it's up here, I think. Hits 9, so it's still there somewhat. You'll see it clear on the back. Anyway, but before we delve more into that, we're going to have a look at the track list. I'll prop that up there. So, Hits album, or Hits 9. So we've got Bros, Cat Amongst the Pigeons, great song to lead with. You Are the One by Aha, Never Trust a Stranger. 1, 2, 3. Enchanted Ladies, a good one by the Pasadenas. And then we'll shimmy on to side 2. Orinoco Flow by Enya. Very surprising number 1, considering her styles are very more relaxed. It's not the typical pop fare. Real Gone Kid, Deacon Blue, a classic. Twisted My Sobriety by Tanita Tikaram is a great song too. And then we'll look at side 3. Stand Up For Your Love Rights by Yaz, which was a follow-up single to The Only Way Is Up, which was on Now 13, fun fact. Samantha Fox, Love House, which is a decent song. She Wants to Dance With Me, Rick Astley. I think that's a really underrated song of his, of course. Never Gonna Give You Up overshadows everything, but you should check that one out for yourself for sure. Whitney, One Moment in Time, amazing song. Lovely Day, that must have been back in the charts by Bill Withers. We've got the Bangles, Angry Anderson, and finishing off with Chris Rea and Driving Home for Christmas, one of the nicest Christmas songs that's ever been released in pop music. So that is your track list, and I must say I'm a bit disappointed. For me at least, it's quite a weak track list. This did come out in 1988, I'm assuming more towards Christmas, hence the Chris Rea inclusion. But look, as you can see, despite them dropping all numbers, the code is still Hits 9. Now this was probably done for production purposes, you know, when they were eking them out, makes it easier. But to have Hits 9 here, but then everywhere else, just the Hits album, it really defeats the purpose. They should have just called it Hits 9, to be honest. But anyway, all these albums are gatefolded, which means they open up like so. And for the first time, the format's really changed. Normally, you get a picture like this, but then you'll get a bit of text next to it across both. This time, the whole left side is just pictures and background painting, which is, you know. And then all the text is here, which not only looks really disorganized, parts of it, at least for me, are a bit hard to read. So why on earth they dropped the text next to the pictures, I have no idea. Maybe they were trying to really break away from Now or something like that. Also notice on this one there are no advertisements of previous Hits albums, which further suggests that they were trying to really reboot this series by getting away from the numbers, but again it just doesn't really work. But anyhow, I'm going to take out one of the discs now and show you what it looks like. So here is the Hits album, or Hits 9 on disc. The main logo is there, and it even says Hits 9 there. And I'm guessing it'll say on the other side. Yep, exactly the same on the other side. So if you thought that was bad enough, well, it also was released, amongst other things, on cassette. And I have it here. This is once more the fat box style of cassette, rather than singular tapes. Like them or love them, I'm not a big fan. It's all the same stuff, same wretched logo there. This one on the spine says Hits album. This one's set at C9, Hits cassette 9, so that, you know, it's all over everywhere. You open this up, they are stacked like this. I have never been a fan of this sort of stacking. I think it's gross. There's no logo, sadly. There used to be logos there. That's a shame. This tape's a little beaten up as well. All the information, again, is in there, like it is on the vinyl album. But it's pretty much the same thing on cassette, although I must say, getting to the summaries now, this is probably one of the weakest Hits albums I've seen or we've looked at in this series. Not just because they've dropped the number, but just the track list. I mean, yes, it's all down to personal preference, but when you look at things like Hits 3, Hits 6, Hits 8, there's so many great songs on there, and this one just doesn't quite meet up to it, and I feel this is also when they're starting to lose out to Now in terms of their song choices and quality as well. So, I mean, where can you pick this up? Again, wouldn't pay any more than £5 for the vinyl, no more than £2 for the cassette. I think I paid about £1 for the cassette one. I'd only really get it if you're a completionist, if you're a collector, or if you know, genuinely like the songs on here, then that's great too. But I really feel this, as I say, is the beginning of the downfall of the Hit series. To not number your 9th installment and expect people, you know, in an age where there was no internet no easy ways to find the past albums unless you went in a shop. Rebooting it just seems a bit daft because Now by this point was on its, I don't know, it just had maybe its 13th volume, so that was running high. To drop out your numbers and start again almost seems really daft, especially when you've got Hits 9 all over it, really, on the production code, on the disc itself, on the cassette. It just seems like a very misguided attempt to try and catch out people, to try and catch their attention, but ultimately I think they made a massive, massive misstep. Hey there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Hits Review, episode 10, and of course, as we are looking chronologically through the Hits albums, we have come to the Hits album, Volume 10.
Hits 10, 32 of the latest. The top 10 hit from London Boys.
So this album's quite interesting because if you've been watching this series, this sort of style, the front cover, that titling, we last saw that on Hits 8. Hits 9 looked completely different. They rebranded it to just the Hits album, and I think they realised their mistake and went back to the old branding. But was it too late? Well, you'll find out as we go. So here it is. I actually really like this cover, that the 10 is sort of a vinyl disc itself with the grooves and all that. I think it's one of my favourite covers of the Hit series, actually. This is obviously second hand. It was originally bought, what's that, John Menzies Records for £7.99. Wow. So 32 tracks featuring Simply Red, Gloria Estefan, Beatmasters, Donna Summer, Fuzzbox, Aretha Franklin, Elton John, Robert Howard and Kim Mazel, Deacon Blue, Mike and the Mechanics, Johnny Nash, Luther Vandross, London Boys, Concan, Edelweiss, Rick Astley, Roachford, The, Cold Cut, Bobby Brown, Ten City, Pat and Mick, and more. That's quite the roster list there. So great cover. Let's see how we get on the back. I also like the spine is multicoloured as well, like the front. It's a nice touch. So you have many tracks here. I'm going to set that up and we're going to zoom in and see what we have. So side 1, The Bangles with Eternal Flame, a great #1 song. Donna Summer, This Time I Know It's For Real, brilliant as well. So you got Concan, Cold Cut. The Four Tops are still going in the 80s. Waiting for a Star to Fall by Boy Meets Girl, a great movie soundtrack song. So Fuzzbox I've never quite heard of before. Simply Red, De La Soul, they've come back into popularity recently. Bobby Brown, big hit in his time. The Funky Worm, yeah, you and me too. Jamanda, Pat and Mick, Mike and the Mechanics, The Living Years, a brilliant song. Highly recommend that one. This man Dross, Hanson Williams. Hold Me in Your Arms, Rick Astley, good song. Through the Storm, Aretha Franklin, Elton John, great little duet. Side 4, you got Deacon Blue, known for Real Gone Kids. Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, need to say more about that one. A remix of I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash, that's interesting. But the Pop Will Eat Itself, Roachford, Beatmasters, and to finish with Edelweiss with Bring Me Edelweiss. Nice and simple there. And you got the 10 logo there as well, which is nice. And this came out in 1989, so we're at the end of the 80s. Now, that's what I call music with steaming ahead. This was your competition, and like all albums of this nature, they are gatefolded. So here is the inside. The 10 logo is splattered everywhere. Funnily enough, if you remember past albums, there was always promotion for some of the other volumes. Well, this one, there is absolutely no promotion. It's just Hits 10. And the budget must have run dry, because these boxes, now usually it does say where, the song came from, what album, how it's available, but usually you get a little bit of description about the song, like where it charted, for example, where it charted in the charts, and the album it's from, all that sort of stuff. So they've really gone for a more subtle approach, or a minimalist approach, which is good on one hand, but I always like reading the descriptions inside, and I can imagine for a music buying public back in 1989, when CDs are still trying to take off, that would have been a big draw. So a bit disappointing on the inside, great cover, and a really good track list. So now I'm going to take out the disc and show you what one of them looks like. So here it is, the Hits 10 on vinyl disc. There you go. The font is a bit different there, a bit bland, and the 10 is there. Sadly, it's in black and white. The budget was really running low, I think, and same on the other side, so definitely a bit of a disappointment in terms of the art of the disc. So, a great front cover, a minimalist approach with a dwindling budget, and a decent track list. But of course, in 1989, the vinyl edition of this album wasn't your only option. Other options, of course, included this, the cassette, the Hits Album 10. They've dropped saying the Hits tape now. And you've got the 32 tracks there, you've got all the artists on the front, and you've got this lovely logo. Now these ones are together, which is a lot more convenient for me. I prefer it when they're sort of squashed together like that rather than individual. And the track list on the back is the same. There isn't really any exclusive tracks or anything like that. God knows how much this was back in the day. So opening it up, yes, they've kept the design. If you've watched this series, you'll know that I like when they include the logo in the top corner. Some of them don't have it, this one does, and that looks fab on this white and black tape. Oh, it does say the Hits Tape 10, that's funny. So okay, it's the Hits tape there, but on the front it's just the Hits album. Consistency, guys, it doesn't hurt. And these don't have descriptions now. I thought they might have done for the cassette, but alas, they do not. So I mean, the cassette one, it's really up to you, pick your preference. I mean, I got mine in a big bundle. So if you really are bothered about cassette, want to listen to the Hits 10 on cassette, the option is available for you. Otherwise, I'd stick to the vinyl edition. You can get it on CD as well, I believe, back in the day, and there is a VHS tape of select songs and their music videos. So really, who is the Hits 10 album for? Well, judging by that track list, as I say with a lot of these, if you like music from the year it was in, so in this case 1989, you can't go wrong with this. I find a lot of this stuff is, from at least my memory, wasn't on some of the Now albums and all that sort of stuff, so it's quite nice to have the difference in variety, some really hidden gems on there that maybe didn't chart so highly. But of course, this album, I think, shows the dwindling of the Hits franchise to start with. Of course, the branding changes were all over the place, so people might have been confused. There's less, notably, like #1 songs on here compared to what Now was pumping out as well. And all I'll say is, for the next installment of this series, things go for a rather interesting turn indeed. So if you like that sort of music, you like what you've seen, then definitely pick up the Hits 10. Or if not, you can just pass. But for me, it's actually one of my favourite of the initial run of Hits albums. Just a note about price as well, the vinyl one, a lot of these I say I wouldn't pay any more than £5 for that. I think I paid about £2. The cassette, no more than £2 probably, but you're still bound to find these for quite cheap. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome to another episode of the Hits Review. This is episode 11, and we are taking a look through the chronological series of the Hits albums, which was the main rival to Now, That's What I Call Music, in the 80s and 90s. And as it's episode 11, you'd think the album would be Hits 11. However, we have this, the 11th release, which is Monster Hits. Now, the Hits album has a weird thing with branding. For their 9th installment, they just went back to calling it the Hits album, then they went back to Hits 10, and now they've gone with Monster Hits. Why they did this is anyone's guess, but let's take a look at the front here. So, a mixture of colours and very late 80s, early 90s shapes here. This is their new little monster mascot, who's looking very suave in his tuxedo and glasses. And it's featuring artists like Madonna, Lisa Stansfield, Prince, Black Box, Gloria Estefan, Bros, Jive Bunny, Martika, Cher, Luther Vandross, Liza Minnelli, The Beatmasters, Eurythmics, Chris Rea, Sybil, Alison Williams, and many more. So quite a respectable lineup there, especially getting some big hit artists like Madonna and Prince, but to name a few. So, yeah, as I said, strangely titled, as spine just says Monster Hits as well, various artists. However, if you look down here, it does say Hits 11, and if we look on the back, it also says Hits 11 above the barcode there. So they are acknowledging this is the 11th installment, but they're just not calling it Hits 11. So it's a bit of an anomaly, and I think it actually hurt the brand, but I'll talk more about what I think could have happened later. So look, sides 1 and 2, you got the big numbers there. Let's take a look at what's on side 1. So Black Box, Ride on Time, arguably it was the biggest hit single of 1989 there. So you got Gloria Estefan, Lisa Stansfield, Beloved, Martika, and then side 2, Madonna with Cherish off her Like a Prayer album, Chris Rea, Cher with Turn Back Time, great song, Alice Cooper with Poison, and Fuzzbox was Walking on Thin Ice. Still need to do my research into Fuzzbox and some of their stuff. Side 3, Simply Red, Luther Vandross, great song, never too much. Sybil, Alison Williams, Prince, Karen White, Donna Summer, and Liza Minnelli with Losing My Mind, which was a song, of course, produced by the Pet Shop Boys for her. And side 4, Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers, London Boys, Big Fun, Bros, Sam Dees, Fast Eddie, the Beatmasters, and finishing with 808 State and Pacific 707. So, zooming in there, should be zooming out. Some truly cracking songs on there, a very respectable track list, that's for sure. But like all these albums, they are gatefolded, so allow me to open this up. And we are now back, thankfully, by the looks of it, to descriptions. If you remember in Hits 10, it just sort of said where the album came from. It didn't say, any more additional information. So this, for example, Italian disco used to be very odd. Then some bright sparks discovered house music, and the result was this. Black Box are fronted by Oh god, I'm not even going to pronounce that. That's my bad, sorry. And the first UK single was #1 in Britain for 6 weeks. The longest stay at #1 for 5 years. There you go. Very strong achievement there. So all these songs just have the little bits and pieces about them, which I think they realised their mistake on Hits 10 by not including this, because of course back then, before the internet, if you wanted to know more about a single or an album, you'd have to read the inner notes. So I think it's really good that they reinstated this, and you get a picture of the artist along the side. Now, I believe this came out in 1989, the same year as Hits 10. Let's have a look. Yes, there you go. The copyright is 1989. And there were some truly great songs in 89. But now, I'm going to take out one of the discs and show you what it looks like. Okay, so there is the disc for Monster Hits. You've got the logo, you've got the little monster. It's strangely just in two colours, green and black. Would have been nice if it was full colour. Side 2 is exactly the same colours, no differentiation there. So by all accounts, that is your standard vinyl disc for Monster Hits. Now, like a lot of these albums, as I've done these hits review episodes, if vinyl's not your thing, you can also get this album on cassette. Yes, that's right, here is Monster Hits on cassette. Same sort of cover, 32 hits. The only major difference is the artists are now down here, as they can't fit in this small red box up there. And the track list is exactly the same. All 32 hits are retained here, which is good. There's no sort of exclusivity with anything. Pop it open, take it out. Oh, we're on black cassettes now. If you remember, up to now, all of these hits cassettes were on white tapes, but you've still got the little Monster logo there, albeit in black and white, and you've got the Monster Hits logo there, which I think actually looks really good. That's a very cool logo for sure, and black tape always looks nice, doesn't it? So yeah, if tape's your thing, then you can always pick this up on cassette tape. I got this in a job lot, but you shouldn't pay any more than £2 for this, really. As for the vinyl, as with a lot of these hits albums, I'd say no more really than £5 for this. You should be able to find it cheaper than £5 in a lot of places, really, because by this point, as I say, this is when hits started to go off the rails a bit. They started to drop the numbering and go off branding, which, considering now, remains so consistent with its numbers and still does to this day, with 104 coming out soon. I think this move, even though there's a great track list on here, one of the best of the hit series, I think, some cracking songs from 1989 with the Black Box stuff, Madonna, Prince, loads of fabulous songs, but just a massive, massive misstep on branding, in my opinion. Should you get this? Well, of course, as I always say, the track list is a big key for these albums. Look at the track list as we went through there. If it's your sort of music, if it's stuff you like, pick it up. However, if the now albums of the same era, so like now 14, 15, 16, are already doing it for you with their track list, then I'd say maybe stay away from this and focus on that series. But of course, if you're collecting the hits albums, you should definitely pick this up. The numbering now of hits goes a bit more askew. I'm going to try and continue this series. There is a hits 12. Of course, it's not called hits 12. But I'm going to see how far I can get with this series. I might not get all the way, but I'm going to try my very best. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another episode of the Hits Review, episode 12. And of course, this is the series where we take a chronological look at the main rival to now that's what I call music, the Hits series. And as this is episode 12, this would technically be Hits 12, but this album is titled Snap. I was trying to say Snap It Up, but there's an exclamation point. Snap It Up, Monster Hits 2. If you remember in episode 11, the last episode, we looked at Monster Hits, or Hits 11 if you like, so they're continuing with the Monster Hits brand by the looks of it. So let's take a look at this front cover, and I'm not that impressed. Very sparse colours, no key iconography. The little monsters come back from the first Monster Hits, which is cute, I suppose. 32 hot chart hits. You got the Chimes, Erasure, Yaz, Bobby Brown, Snap, Eurythmics, B-52s, Paul Young, Alana Miles, Diana Ross, Rod Stewart, Gloria Estefan, Betty Boo, Lisa Stansfield, The Family Stand, The Pasadenas, and many more. So let's take a look at the track list. We'll put that back there and see what these hot chart hits are in 1990, which is when this came out. So let's zoom into side 1. So you've got Treat Me Good by Yaz, What Did I Do To You? I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, which is the Chimes cover of the U2 classic, of course. A remix of an old Diana Ross song there. The Freestyle Mega Mix from Bobby Brown. In side 2, you got Alana Miles with Black Velvet, great song. B-52s with Love Shack. Not one of my favourites, I must admit. What else we got? You got Rod Stewart. Eurythmics with Angel to finish off the first record. And then for record 2, you got Lily Was Here, which is a great little instrumental theme from David Stewart and Candy Dolfer. First Fan, Paul Young, Pasadena's are back, Big Fun. Erasure with Star, one of their most underwhelming singles in my opinion. Black Box are back with Everybody Everybody, nowhere near as good as Ride on Time in my opinion. Guru Josh with the original Infinity, which has been remixed several times. Snap with their version of Oops Upside Your Head. Of course, I think we all know what my favourite Snap song is. And as I say, this came out in 1990, but interestingly enough, look again, it's Hits 12 up there, also available on CD and mini cassette, I'm assuming that means. So yeah, Hits 12. So this is clearly still referred to as Hits 12 in some circles of the production team, but as you can see, it is going by the name of Snap It Up Monster Hits 2, which I think was one of the downfalls of the Hits series, the fact they just kept changing the branding and the titles so much. But as this is a gatefold album, we're going to open this up, like so, if I can. There we go, we're going to open that up, and look at this, you get full on descriptions. Thankfully, I was so glad they kept these. So let's have a look at this one, for example. This is Yaz's first solo single. Oh, Yaz First's solo single, The Only Way Is Up, was the UK's second best-selling single of 1988. Following 3 further top 20 hits, this is their first single in a year, heralds a new album due this autumn. Oh, well, that's good. And see, it also tells you what album it comes from. Like, here's the Lisa Stansfield one, which is really good. Scanning down all these fabulous songs. See, this track list is actually really good. I was a bit skeptical at first reading it, but then it was one of those cases where I remembered, like, what songs were what. You know, you read the names, you don't recognise them, then you hear them and you're like, oh yeah, it's that song. So a really nice, strong track list there. No promotion, though, for the first Monster Hits album or any of the other hits series, which is a bit strange to me. But now then, I'm going to take out one of the records and show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is the disc, and green and white, a very interesting two-colour combination. I wish they'd almost gone full colour with it, but you've still got the logo, and you've still got the little monster there as well. So flip that over. It's exactly the same on the other side, so for all intents and purposes, that is your Snap It Up disc. So now normally this has been the point in the hits review where I show you the cassette editions of these albums, but unfortunately I don't own this album on cassette, although if you are so inclined it is available on cassette and a compact disc as the album itself advertises. How much would you want to pay for this? I got this off Discogs and I think I paid about £2 for it as part of a bulk order, but you know, again with these sort of albums you shouldn't be paying any more than £5 on vinyl, no more than £2 on cassette I'd say, and also make sure you're always checking your records for deep scratches, excessive dust, anything like that that might impede your listening experience, because let's face it, you don't want that. Now, who is this for? Well, as always, this is 1990, the first part of it, so if the music in early 1990 is sort of your thing, then you should definitely snap it up. God, that's a terrible pun. But yeah, if you enjoy that sound of music, then you definitely should. If you're not so that way inclined, then maybe pass it up. It's definitely not one of the greatest of the hit series in my opinion. The track list is good, but it's still a far cry from some of the best ones, like my favourites being like Hits 3, Hits 6, Hits 8, that sort of thing. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome after long last to another episode of The Hits Review. Yes, it's finally time. Where we last left off, we looked at Snap It Up Monster Hits 2, or Hits 12 if you like. And I remember saying that the next installment, which is this one, the Hit Pack, didn't have a vinyl release, but so many of you guys requested that I pick it up on either cassette or CD, so I did on CD for about £2. Haven't found a vinyl version of it yet, but today we will be reviewing the Hit Pack, or as I like to call it, Hits 13. So this came out in 1990, and where was Hits at? Well, I think they'd gone way past their peak. Now That's What I Call Music was becoming the dominant compilation franchise, and whilst back in the mid to late 80s, Hits offered some stellar competition, there were a few things that led them awry. First of all, the naming. So for those who haven't seen the Hits review, I mean, I highly recommend you watch it, but for those less familiar, you had Hits 1 to 8 all numbered. Hits 9 was just called the Hits album, which was a silly mistake. They went back to the numbers for Hits 10, and then for Hits 11 they changed it up, called it Monster Hits, and then Snap It Up Monster Hits 2. For this one, they've gone back to, well, with the word hit, of course, the Hit Pack, and this rather odd artwork. I mean, this was 1990, this feels very 1990. So 74 minutes of chart music. Interesting they choose not to broadcast how many tracks are on there like they usually do, more about how long it is, which is interesting. So you've got featuring the Charlatans, Paul Simon, Bobby Vinton, the Proclaimers, Snap, Maria McKee, Berlin, Deacon Blue, Julie Cruz, New Kids on the Block, Prince, and Black Box. Okay, so a very interesting selection there. Let's flip it on over, and I will zoom in, and we will look at the track list here today. So we're kicking off with Groove Is in the Heart, the Peanut Butter Mix by D-Light. Now that was a massive hit in 1990. I'm not sure if I've heard that mix before. You've got Fantasy by Black Box, Mary Had a Little Boy by Snap, Living in the Light by Karen Wheeler, Crazy by Seal, Then by The Charlatans, Cubic by 808 State, Good Morning Britain by Aztec Camera and Mick Jones, The Obvious Child, a single mix by Paul Simon, Fog on the Tyne, revisited by Gaza and Linda Svan, Are You Dreaming, the radio edit by 24/7 and Captain Hollywood. Okay, that's that. And then for the second half, Thieves in the Temple, the album version by Prince, Spit in the Rain by Delamitri, King of the Road by The Proclaimers, Show Me Heaven by Maria McKee, brilliant song, Take My Breath Away by Berlin, I'll Never Fall in Love Again by Deacon Blue, Blue Velvet by Bobby Vinton, Crying in the Rain LP version by Aha, Falling by Julie Cruz, and Tonight by New Kids on the Block. So definitely not as huge a selection. I mean, all the hits albums prior were double albums. You know, they were either double vinyl, double cassette, double CD. This was the first in the series to go single CD release, and I think, as far as I know, on the cassette, the track list is the same, or maybe there's a few more songs on it, but I think there's only about 21 songs on here, so definite downgrade. I mean, there's the spine, just says Hit Pack various artists. Now, the barcode on here is Comp CD1, which is interesting because this is from the same people who made all the Hits albums, so this is technically Hits 13. If the camera decides to go in focus, copyright 1990. I mean, there are some positives, you know, now at this point still wasn't getting artists like Prince. Prince is on here. Oh, there's my reflection. You got two big movie songs, Maria McKee with Show Me Heaven from Days of Thunder, and Take My Breath Away was from Top Gun. I wonder why this is on here, because Take My Breath Away came out in 1986, so maybe it was used in an advert or something, so it like got popular again. Who knows, really? But of course, we have to crack this open. So look, isn't that the most 90s disc? I love discs were like that, you know, back in the day. They'd sort of etch their designs onto them. I just thought that was always really cool. And you've got all the artists there. If I spin it around, there you go. You got all the artists and that artwork, man, just dead strange. Copyright 1990. There's also this artwork on the back. The 90s were weird, man, especially at the start. So what does this booklet contain? Ah, now look at that, you see. So, oh, it's just the track list here. See, that's disappointing, because again, the Hits album up to this point, like the Nows, would always include information about their artists and also, like, you know, where they charted, what album they came from. This is, well, done on the cheap, quite frankly. This is literally just the track list, which you can read on the back. Is that any different? No, I believe that's just the same with, like, production notes and stuff. So that's a very lackluster booklet, I have to say, which is rather unfortunate. Again, another reason why Hits was succumbing to Now's popularity. Now always maintain the quality of like the releases in terms of the booklets and whatnot. So, I mean, what more is there to say about the Hit Pack? I mean, 1990 was an odd year in music. You had the last remnants of the 80s and, I mean, the beginning of what we most identify as 90s music coming in. So, I mean, if you're into that sort of crossover period where music was just getting a bit odd, like, but in a good way, there was lots of like niche dancey things and whatnot. So I'd say if you're into that sort of stuff, the Hit Pack is worth checking out. Is it better than some of the previous Hits albums? Not really. As I say, I think Hits really peaked when it was a full double album. That's when it felt like a real contender for the Now series. I mean, going down to a single disc CD just doesn't quite do it for me. I mean, yes, there's 74 minutes of music. That's a long time, but I mean, for the sake of not having another disc, I just think it falls a bit flat. So I'd say only pick up the Hit Pack if you're like me and you're going to collect these things. I am annoyed I can't find a vinyl release, although I do remember reading on Wikipedia about this. Supposedly there was an LP release, or it seems to say there is, although I looked on Discogs, which is a great website to find versions of things, and on Discogs there is only listed a CD version and a cassette version. So is there a vinyl version? Who knows? I mean, let me know in the comments if you own the vinyl version, because I've just not been looking hard enough, clearly. But I've searched many times for a vinyl version of this album and have found nothing. But from here, you think it's Hits 14. Well, they actually go back to calling it the Hits album. And funnily enough, the catalogue number on that, I think, is Hits 15, even though it's the 14th release. That does have a vinyl version for definite, so maybe one day I'll grab that and we will cover that. But I know a lot of you guys were asking for this review. You wanted me to cover the Hit Pack, and, well, sadly, it's a bit of a disappointment for the Hit series, really. Will it bounce back with the next one? We'll have to wait and see. Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another installment of the Hits Review. And this time we're taking a look at a very interesting album indeed. We are looking at, well, the Hits album. Or should I say Hits 14? Or is it Hits 15? Before I get into the review, I just want to say shout out to York Records. I bought this off them off eBay. It literally arrived the next day. First class post. Brilliant guys to buy off. So check their eBay page and also check their website because they'll probably do great deals on other vinyl as well. So this is the Hits album. This came out in 1991. And it's, again, looks like a sort of reboot sort of branding because for those who aren't familiar, the Hits album began in 1984, a year after now, mainly to compete with them, and it started numbering their releases up to number 8. Hits number 9 was called the Hits album, again, so that's the second time. Then it went to Hits 10, then they changed it to Snap It Up, or Monster Hits, if you like, for 2 releases. Then they went to the Hit Pack, and now we've come full circle, and we are back with the Hits album. Now, this is technically the 14th release, but some people know this as Hits 15, even though there was no technical Hits 14, according to this. But we'll get into that later. But first, let's have a look at this. So, you've got 32 hot hits. This is actually quite a nice cover. I like the whole red and blue split with the yellow sort of sun design. I think it's actually a really nice cover. So, really good cover. Probably one of the best in the series. So, it features Whitney Houston, Rod Stewart, Gloria Estefan, Seal, Kylie Minogue, R.E.M., Erasure, Salt and Pepper, Kenny Thomas, and many more. There is your spine with, oh there it is, it's a bit creased, but there's the information, the Hits album. Now let's have a look at the back and the all-important track list. So, kicking off, you have Salt and Pepper with Do You Want Me, Kenny Thomas, Thinking About Your Love, Sonia with Only Fools Never Fall in Love, New Kids on the Block, Call It What You Want, Kylie Minogue, Shocked, Chesney Hawkes, I'm a Man, Not a Boy, The Simpsons, yes, those Simpsons with Deep Deep Trouble, Drizzabone with Real Love, and on side 2, Whitney Houston, My Name Is Not Susan, great song, taken off a I'm Your Baby Tonight album. Danny Minogue, Success, Technotronic, Move That Body, CNC Music Factory, Here We Go, Rebel MC featuring Tenafly and Barrington Levy with Tribal Bass, Cubic 22, Night in Motion, Quadrophenia with Wave of the Future, and Cola Boy with 7 Ways to Love. Then we're kicking out at side 3, Erasure with Chorus, Seal with Future Love Paradise, PM Dawn, A Watcher's Point of View, Gary Clayle, Human Nature, R.E.M., Shiny Happy People, Pop Will Eat Itself, 92 Degrees, Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, Sheriff Fatman, Alice Cooper, Hey Stupid, and on side 4, Rod Stewart, The Motown Song, Bette Midler, From a Distance, Gloria Estefan, Remember Me with Love, Alison Limerick, Where Love Lies, Come On In, Crystal Waters with Gypsy Woman, Ladder D, Beverly Craven with Promise Me, Harry Connick Jr. with We're in Love, and finishing off with Rick Astley and Never Knew Love. And as you can see down there, it is 1991, copyright to Sony Music at this point and BMG Records. Now, the interesting thing, I said this was Hits 14, but look up here. That does say Hits 15. And no one really knows why it says Hits 15 because technically this isn't the 15th release. This is actually the 14th release in the Hits series. So why it's actually labelled as Hits 15 is anyone's guess. I can imagine back in 1991 for anyone collecting these, it must have been really confusing with no internet to realise there wasn't actually a 14th release. It just jumped straight to 15 after the hit pack. So I would normally say let's open this up because typically these albums are gatefolds just like the Now albums, but unfortunately no such luck in this one. This is just a standard sleeve and the discs are just housed in there normally. I'll show you what one of them looks like typically. Not that exciting. There you go. It's got that globe motif. It actually looks like the Panorama logo now the more I look at it, but that is your standard disc for the Hits album. So yeah, I'll talk more about the track list in a minute, but obviously this album has some key failings in my opinion. The first being, as we've just seen there, it's not a gatefold. Part of the appeal of both the Hit series and the Now series was what their double albums were gatefolds. You can open them up, you'd see pictures of the artist, you'd see a bit about each song, about what album it came from, about where it charted. That was always part of the thrill of picking up these albums on vinyl. And for it to just not be here, I mean, look, just to have a standard sleeve, maybe they did this to cut costs, but I think it's a real shame, it's a real letdown. Especially though since the CD version of this probably has a booklet. And the song choices, I mean, The Simpsons on here with Deep Deep Trouble. Now, in the 90s, Do the Bartman, that was a big song, that was #1 here for weeks, but this song, from what I remember of it, I didn't really like it, it's not that good, so I don't know why it's on here, I don't know why they couldn't get Do the Bartman, though that was last year. You've got some really good songs though, like My Name Is Not Susan. That whole album by Whitney Houston, by the way, is brilliant. But again, you wouldn't know that unless you just knew about the album coming out, because there's no information about it. Danny Minogue Success, that's an ironic title, isn't it? Looking at some of the other things on here, you got Bette Midler, From a Distance. If I remembered rightly, that's the song she did that's all like about God and stuff and how God's watching us. I'm an atheist personally. If you're religious and watching, I've got nothing against you whatsoever. But songs like this, I don't really do it for me at all. Shiny Happy People by R.E.M's a good choice, as is Chorus by Erasure. But is this the best track list in hits history? Probably not, but again, you could arguably put that down to musical preference. Like, I probably prefer stuff that was coming out in the mid to late 80s than 1991, for example. But there's not really much else to say about the Hits album, only that after this there were no more, to my knowledge anyway from the research, there were no more vinyl releases. This was the last installment of the whole Hits series to be released on vinyl. Also, from what I've seen from here, it gets really complicated. I think they abandon the numbers and they just go through all sorts of naming changes and stuff like that. So, who really knows? In terms of me continuing the Hits series on this channel, I don't think I'm going to go any further than this. The whole point I started it was because I had the first 10 Hits albums on vinyl and I really wanted to cover them. I went for, acquired Monster Hits and Monster Hits 2 for that reason as well, and only recently acquired the Hit Pack because I know a lot of you guys wanted to see it, and I thought I'd pick up this as well because this is sort of the natural end of the series on vinyl, and with the 14th or 15th apparently release, it just seems like a good place to end. I'm not really in the market to collect any more CDs than I already have, so maybe one day if I have more space I'll look into the other Hits albums on CD, but for the time being, I think this is the end of the road. But before I end this review, is this something you should pick up? Well, obviously I know collectors will. If you want the CD and cassette releases of this, it's probably going to be a bit cheaper. I paid £9 for this personally, which again, for a vinyl record that's nearly 30 years old, is not a bad price at all. It was free postage from the guys at York Records, so thank you. And £9 seems to be about the price you'll pay for this elsewhere. There will be websites that say, oh, you can get it for £4, £4.50, but often you're adding the extra £4, £5 postage. So about just under £10 is probably what you're going to end up paying with this album unless you find it at a car boot sale. Always check your vinyl discs. As I always say in these videos, make sure there's no deep scratches that you think will affect playback. Make sure they're clean and playable like this one is. And aside from that, if you like the pop music that was coming out in 1991, you'll enjoy this. But if you don't, then stay away. But that's all for this installment of the Hits Review. Thank you very much for watching. And as I say, this will indeed be the last Hits Review for the foreseeable future. It might come back one day, but for the time being, we've reached a natural conclusion. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check out the other shows on the channel. If you're new, you might like the Now Review, where I review Now That's What I Call Music albums, the spin-offs, the numbered series, all that sort of stuff. So check that out if you can. Thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you're brand new. And until the next one, I will see you guys next time. Well, that does bring us to a close this evening on AMTV. We do hope you enjoyed the programme, and please do keep your eyes open for brand new content that will be coming to you soon. Until then, have a very good week, and we hope that you join us again soon. Good night.